video, we're going to go over the different things that threaten the security of a network. If your computer is a standalone device, that means it doesn't talk to anything else, doesn't have an internet connection, it's very difficult to hack. The problem with using networks is that there are lots of different access points where criminals can gain entry to the network. If your computer is connected to the internet, it's even more susceptible to being hacked. There are lots of different ways that networks can be attacked. A passive attack is where a criminal monitors any network traffic and intercepts anything that they think could be useful to them. This type of attack is really difficult to spot on a network because the criminal will just be sat quietly watching, so they're not automatically going to be flagged up as a network intruder. They might even use software called packet sniffers, which will identify certain things on the network and alert the criminal that that might be something that they're interested in looking at. The best way to keep your network secure from passive attacks, making sure that all the data sent across it is encrypted. This means that anything that is intercepted by the criminals cannot be understood because it's encrypted and they don't have the key. An active attack on a network is where someone is actually doing something to try to harm the network. This could be by downloading viruses, worms or trojans. It's usually a lot easier to spot this kind of attack because most people now have antivirus software and firewalls. These flag up anything that they think is suspicious and alert the user. But this is also why it's really important to make sure that you have antivirus software installed and also that it's kept up to date. New viruses and worms come out all of the time. If your antivirus software is out of date, it might not pick up on the most up-to-date viruses and then your data could become corrupted or stolen. Malware is the collective name for things like worms and viruses and Trojan horses. This is code that has been constructed on purpose to try to cause harm or damage to people's files. Malware can do all different types of things. Some files are built to keep duplicating themselves. This means making copy after copy after copy of itself until it fills up the network traffic, slowing the network down, or it could also fill up your hard drive. Some malware is also built to try and trick you into clicking on things. So it might tell you that you've got a virus and to click here to try and fix it. When you click on the link, usually when you click on the link, the person who made the code is going to say they want money to remove the code from your computer. Another type of malware is the type that will lock your computer. So it might lock your entire computer or it might lock certain sections of your hard drive so you can't access them. You will then get a message demanding money in order for your computer or files to be unlocked. Spyware is a type of malware that logs everything that you are typing or looking at on your computer. So if you're regularly on your online banking, it will log what website you go onto and then also the keys that you press in order to access the website. A lot of online banking has now cottoned onto this, and that is why when you create a password, it wants you to type in the first, the third and the fifth characters of your password rather than typing in the entire password. One of the biggest problems with networks can come from the people who are actually using the network in the first place. This is called an insider attack. This is where someone who works inside the organisation takes the data from the network and gives it out. Another way that a criminal might try to gain access to a network is by brute force. This is where they're trying to guess somebody's password just by typing it in over and over and over again until they get it right. Software can be written that does this for you. So rather than someone sat there typing in lots of different password combinations over and over again, you can get software that does this for you. This is why it's really important that your password should be strong, so over 8 characters and a combination of uppercase, lowercase, symbols and numbers, and should be changed fairly frequently. It's also why it's really important that you shouldn't use the same password for loads of different accounts. If somebody guesses your password to one account and all your passwords are the same, they then have access to all of your accounts. Because of this type of attack, a lot of networks and websites now insist that if you type your password in wrong a set amount of times, you are temporarily locked out of your account. This is to stop hackers and criminals from trying to randomly guess passwords to accounts, and it keeps you secure. Another way that a network security can be threatened is by a denial of service attack. This is where a criminal gains access to your network and prevents you from using it and demands payment for giving it back. While the criminal has access to the network, you can't do anything with it. The most common way that denial of service attack occurs is that the criminal will flood the network with lots of pointless data requests. This will slow the network down to a point where it's pretty much unusable. They can then demand money to stop doing this to get your network working at full speed again. The biggest problem of all when it comes to networks is usually the people using them. People can be manipulated into giving out their login details, thinking that maybe, oh, it doesn't matter, and that person could then pass it on to criminals even if they themselves are not a criminal. Another big problem with people is that sometimes they can fall for scams very easily. Social engineering is one method of using people to gain access to a network. This is where the criminal will try to influence people into giving them their login details so they can access the network, or maybe persuading the person to access the network and give them the information and data that they need. A lot of the time, this can happen through telephone calls. So someone might receive a phone call, and so the person on the phone might be telling them that they work for a company or that they're the network administrator, and can they just do X, Y, and Z. This is why it's really important when you're speaking to somebody on the phone, you should be confident you know who you are speaking to, and to never give out any information like PIN codes or bank details if you're not actually sure who you're talking to. You should never ever give anybody your bank's PIN code over the telephone. Phishing emails are becoming more and more common. Phishing emails are when somebody writes an email pretending to be a company or a person and asking for someone to enter their information. What usually happens on these type of emails is that they will send a link to the customer saying that there's a problem with their account, can you just click here to fix it? They will click on the link and it will take them to a fake version of the website, and then they will enter their username and password, which obviously is not the real website, and that will be sent to the criminal. This then gives the criminal access to their actual account, meaning that they can log on and do whatever they want to with that information. In order to try and help people out with this, most emails have spam filters now. However, not everybody knows how to spot these kind of emails, and a lot of people tend to fall for them. Some big clues tend to be checking the address of the person who sent the email. Never ever click on a link provided in an email. Instead, go onto your web browser and type the website address in for yourself. And number 3, often they have spelling mistakes or they don't refer to you by name. It might be a generic starter like dear sir or madam. Another way that networks can be threatened is by SQL injections. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and we'll go into this a lot more when we get to doing paper 2. But for now, you just need to know it's a method of getting information out of websites. If you go on a website and there is a text box, some people can type in SQL code into that box and get the website to reveal the information to them. Obviously, it's the responsibility of the website developer to make sure that the SQL part of their website is secure, otherwise this can be a really easy way for hackers to access sensitive information on websites. In order to keep their website secure, people and organisations should be regularly testing for any kind of vulnerabilities and making sure that people are fully aware of not falling for scams. One of the easiest ways to make your networks more secure is to set up different access levels. This is where different people on the network can access different parts of the network. If, for example, your company is a shop, there will be different people working in the shop who need access to different things. If somebody works in the warehouse, all they need access to is the stock levels part. If they are working with the accounts, they need access to the account part. The warehouse manager doesn't need access to the accounts, they just need access to the stock part. And this is where you would set the people up on your network with those different access levels, making sure that only people can access the information and data that they need. This makes it harder for people to access parts of the network they don't need to, and makes the network more secure. As discussed previously, it's also really important to make sure that the network has antivirus software or anti-malware software, as well as firewalls. These will periodically scan the network for any threats and alert the user. This means that it's a quick and easy way of making sure that there are no threats on your network, and any potential threats are identified quickly and can be dealt with. As we've also discussed, any data being sent across the network that is sensitive should always be encrypted. We've also touched on the idea of passwords and the fact that they have to be strong. This is really important that they are strong and also updated regularly. This is something that the network administrator can organise by ensuring that passwords are updated every 6 months. Another fairly easy fix for keeping your network secure is to make sure that it is physically secure. So this could mean making sure that any rooms that have computers in them are kept locked, CCTV cameras are installed around the building, and also making sure that any windows are kept locked or maybe barred over. One of the best ways of making sure that your network is actually secure, though, is to pay somebody to try to hack it. This is called penetration testing. This is where you employ somebody called an ethical hacker to try to hack your network on purpose. They will do this to try and spot any vulnerabilities or weak points in your network that an actual hacker could get in, and then they can work with you to patch those up to make sure that those vulnerabilities no longer exist.
A doctor's surgery stores hundreds of patients' details on its computer network. The surgery is concerned about the security of its patients' sensitive medical data. Staff are already required to use strong passwords to protect systems. Explain, with reference to system security, 3 other ways that the surgery could protect the system. So there are lots of different things that you could talk about in your answer, but you need to explain 3 of them. Now, obviously we can't talk about strong passwords because it's already given us that as the possible answer. So what we need to do is choose 3 other ways. So we could talk about firewalls or anti-malware. We could also talk about making sure that the data is encrypted. We could talk about physical network security measures. We could also talk about user access levels. It doesn't really matter which 3 that you pick, but what does matter is that you can then point and explain them, linking back to the doctor's surgery. So you need to choose the 3 that are best for you. So from here we can talk about why would we have a firewall or why would we have anti-malware, and we need to make sure that our answer in the explain part of it directly refers back to the doctor's surgery and how these ways or methods would protect the system.